in 2008 and 2009, 20% of all of those vulnerabilities were SQL injection attacks. And kind of following on from that a bit, in 2008 and 2009 so far, cross-site scripting and SQL injection have accounted for roughly 33% of those vulnerabilities. Back in 2006, they accounted for less than 1% of all of the CV numbers issued. So you can see that there's a definite switch in focus from the attackers. And from my point of view, SQL injection is the inspiration for my favourite XKCD comic. So I don't know if everyone might have seen this before, but really what's going on here is the mom receives a phone call from the school. They're having some computer trouble. So the mom says, "Oh dear, did my son break something?" They say, "Well, in a way." And they say, "Did you really name your son Robert, drop table student?" So she said, "Yeah, that's little Bobby Tables." And if you go to Facebook, the Bobby Tables account is also mine as well. I don't know whether that says a lot about me or not, but really, the mom says, "Well, that's your fault. Make sure you sanitize your database inputs." And whilst it's only a simple comic, it actually makes a very good point. Before you use any externally supplied data or any data in your SQL queries, make sure you validate it first. So in terms of Web 2.0, SQL injection, I think, for the time being, will still continue to be used for data theft, bypassing authentication systems, drop-in tables and so on, like Bobby Tables' mom has just done. But what we're also seeing is if you think of things like Flash and kind of JavaScript as technologies that users have to have enabled nowadays to go and use these kind of Web 2.0 sites, well, the attackers know that just as much as we know that. So what they're starting to do is exploit the fact that people will need Flash or will have Flash and JavaScript enabled when they come to these sites. I mean, it's okay as security guys telling people you should use NoScript, but most of the sites the average user uses nowadays will be completely broken if they go there with NoScript turned on. So we're seeing SQL injection vulnerabilities not being used to steal data, not directly, but to inject malicious Flash files into sites that then, when a user comes to the site, views the Flash video, it exploits a flaw in the Adobe Flash Player. We're also seeing people injecting malware serving JavaScript as well, and we'll look at an example in a minute from about a week and a half ago of an automated attack trying to inject this malware serving JavaScript. And it doesn't kind of matter how you're transmitting your data around, as long as you take externally supplied data and put it into your SQL query in the back end. It doesn't really matter whether you're doing that through JSON, XML, SOAP, or whatever you want to use. So firstly, a simple example, a recent example of an authentication bypass SQL injection attack. So what this guy found was that in this server called Alumni Server, it would take in two values from the user, take an email address and a password value, and then use them directly in a SQL query without doing any validation. So what he did is he put his email address in there, single quote parenthesis, or 1 equals 1. So far he's saying pick an email address where it's equal to true. And then the /* in MySQL actually says essentially ignore the rest of that, so he doesn't have to provide a password value. So he's just put essentially any email address or 1 equals 1, ignore the rest of it, and he's bypassed the authentication system. So like I said, even though the kind of 1 equals 1 example, probably people get fed up of seeing that, sometimes it is that easy in the real world. So the very simple attack there. Now this one, I'm not going to try and step through all the white SQL stuff here at the moment. There's a lot of it there. But essentially this was from, I think it was about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And the bit in orange on the screen there is really the important thing to look at here. And what this attack was doing, it was automatically trying to find SQL injection vulnerabilities in websites, inject this script tag, so when anyone came along, viewed the site, it would basically make a request to execute this JavaScript file and then try and exploit the Office web components vulnerability, which I think even now might still be unpatched. And at the time of me writing this presentation, the file contained 2 URLs, and the code it tried to push down was only being picked up by 15 of the 41 virus scanners on VirusTotal, and that was on the 16th of July. So you can see that, attackers know that people have to have, the ability to execute JavaScript when they come to pages, so they try and exploit that as well. So next up is cross-site scripting worms. We know that cross-site scripting itself isn't new to Web 2.0, and I guess there's an argument whether cross-site scripting worms is or isn't, because essentially when Sammy exploited MySpace, it wasn't a Web 2.0 site, but he used Web 2.0 technologies like XML HTTP request for the exploit. Now, like I said, I'm not going to step through the Sammy code today, but I would say I'm definitely going to have a read of it, because he did some quite clever things when he exploited MySpace there. I do feel a little bit obliged to mention Sammy, because I think that it was probably the first big example of cross-site scripting attacks, let alone cross-site scripting worms, in my opinion. So he did this 4 years ago, and he managed to exploit over 1 million profiles, or infect 1 million profiles in about 24 hours. And even in 2009, Sammy is still a hero, firstly because he's not really been eclipsed in terms of the amount of infections he's got. But if you do a Google search for, site MySpace, and I think whatever line of text he injected, something like, and above all, Sammy is my hero, you'll still see reams and reams of profiles that still have that text, not the JavaScript in there anymore, but that text in there. Most notably, actually, Hulk Hogan has got that now. I don't know whether I would go exploiting Hulk Hogan's MySpace page, but, Sammy managed to do that. So I guess if I was sat in the crowd now, I'd be thinking, well, Sammy's old, tell me about something new. So I managed to kind of find something a bit more recent, the Stalk Daily, or I think it was also referred to as the Mikey worm, that infected Twitter in April, Easter weekend. And really the problem here was that on your Twitter profile you can put your URL into the page, and they weren't validating that URL field correctly. So what this guy managed to figure out was he can put his stalkdaily.com URL in there, throw a script tag on the end. Whenever someone come and viewed that, the script would execute, and so on, and affect their profile. So what we're going to do is step through some of the code, or the most important points in the code at least anyway here. So firstly, what he did was to grab your authentication token. So at the top there we've got a regular expression where he's just going to grab your authentication token, because he needs that to make 2 requests on your behalf, which he's going to do in a minute. In the middle there as well, he had an array of tweets. So he wasn't going to use the same tweet for everyone. I don't know if that was to try and, evade people picking up on us as an exploit or something like that. But basically what he would do is he would pull one of the tweets out of that array and then use that to update your page with one of the posts in a second. And then at the bottom there, he's got his stalkdaily.com URL with that script source on the end, which, again, he's going to use to inject into your profile in a minute. So like I said, he makes 2 requests. Firstly, he updates your status with one of those tweets out of his array. So he passes along your authentication token that he grabbed. He takes one of those tweets, updates your profile. And then secondly there, he makes a second post to change your account settings to include his attack code. So again, he's passing the authentication token. He injects that code into your page. Anyone comes along, this will all execute on their page, and so on and so on. I think he got something like 17,000 infections with this Stalk Daily worm. They fixed it, and he did another worm the day after. I think that was the Mikey worm. I think he exploited a different flaw, pretty much the same thing in Twitter 2 days in a row. So just 2 more extra points there as well. He needed to have your screen name to make a post on your behalf. So again, he's got another regular expression there where he pulls your screen name out of the meta content field so he can make those updates on your behalf. And then lastly at the bottom there, he takes your username and cookie and sends it off to another domain of his. Why not? If you can take everything you can get. That's not my professional opinion, of course. So how will this get worse, or how can this get worse? Well, some of the worms that we've seen so far rely on kind of some quirks in browser behavior. So firstly, if you could get a worm that's fully supported by all browsers, I don't know how easy or hard that is, because a lot of websites aren't supported by all browsers. But if you can get your worm code to be fully